In May of 2026, one of the messiest, most expensive, most talked about lawsuits in modern Hollywood history quietly ended. No verdict. No jury. No dramatic courtroom moment where somebody breaks down on the stand. Just a joint statement, released through lawyers, so carefully worded it barely says anything at all. We remain firmly committed to workplaces free of improprieties and unproductive environments. That's it. That's the ending. After a year and a half of headlines, subpoenas, a $400 million countersuit, and enough legal filings to fill a small library, two of the most famous people connected to a single movie agreed to stop fighting in public and said almost nothing about who was actually right. Except it turns out that's not actually the ending, either. Because weeks after that statement, Blake Lively went right back to court. Not for a new lawsuit. For money she says she still owed from the old one. So let's actually walk through how it ends with Us. A movie about a woman escaping a toxic relationship, ironically enough, turned into one of the ugliest real-life legal fights in recent memory, and why, even after a settlement, it still isn't fully over. Part 1. How a movie promo tour turned into a federal case. Rewind to December 2024. It Ends With Us has already been out for months and made a fortune at the box office. Blake Lively stars in it. Justin Baldoni directs it, produces it, and co-stars in it as her on-screen love interest. On paper, that's a Hollywood success story. Then Lively files a legal complaint. She alleges sexual harassment during production and claims that after she raised concerns, Baldoni and his team retaliated, including what she describes as an orchestrated online smear campaign designed to damage her public image before she could speak publicly about what happened on set. Baldoni denies the allegations. Here's the part that made this different from a normal he said she said. Lively's complaint didn't just describe alleged behavior. It came with an actual paper trail, text messages, planning documents, the kind of detail that reads less like gossip and more like evidence. That's what turned this from a tabloid story into a federal case within days. And Baldoni didn't stay quiet, either. Part 2. The Counterattack. 1 month later, January 2025, Baldoni fires back hard. He files a $400 million countersuit, not just against Lively, but against her husband, Ryan Reynolds, her publicist, and, in a separate but related filing, the New York Times, which had published an early account of Lively's allegations. Baldoni accuses them of defamation and extortion, essentially arguing that his reputation and career were deliberately destroyed by a campaign coordinated against him. Think about the scale of that for a second. This isn't two actors quietly disagreeing. This is now a sitting movie star, her Deadpool-famous husband, a national newspaper, and a director/actor, all formally suing each other in the same overlapping set of cases. Reportedly, even Taylor Swift's name shows up in some of the Discovery materials, simply because she's close friends with Lively. Not accused of anything, just close enough to the center of the story that her name got pulled into the paperwork. That's how big this got. Even the bystanders had lawyers checking their names in court filings. For most of 2025, this thing plays out less like a legal case and more like a public relations war with legal paperwork attached. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, becomes a near-constant presence in entertainment press, and at one point reportedly says outright that he intends to publish evidence rebutting Lively's claims directly to the public, a strategy so aggressive that Lively's own legal team asks the court to formally restrain him from litigating the case in the media instead of the courtroom. That's the environment this case lived in for over a year. Not quiet, not private. A running public battle, refreshed constantly, with both sides seemingly convinced that public opinion mattered as much as the actual verdict. Part 3. The legal ground shifts. Here's where the story stops being simple. In June of 2025, a judge dismisses Baldoni's $400 million countersuit against Lively, Reynolds, and the others. That's a real blow to Baldoni's side. The massive, headline-grabbing extortion and defamation claim, the one that made this feel like a war instead of a lawsuit, gets thrown out. But, and this is the part a lot of casual coverage skipped, Lively's own case didn't sail through untouched, either. Her side headed toward trial with 13 separate claims. In April of 2026, a federal judge hands down a 152-page ruling that guts most of them. Sexual harassment, defamation, false, light invasion of privacy, all dismissed, not allowed to proceed to trial. Out of 13 original claims, only 3 survive: retaliation, aiding and abetting retaliation, and breach of contract. So by the spring of 2026, both sides have technically lost something enormous. Baldoni's giant countersuit is gone. Lively's case has shrunk down to roughly a quarter of what she originally filed. If you're the legal team at this point, you don't have a clean story to tell a jury anymore. you have a much smaller, much messier fight than the one that made headlines a year earlier. Trial is set for May 18th. Both sides show up for a court-ordered settlement conference in February and walk away with nothing resolved. Friedman tells reporters outside the courthouse he doubts they'll even try again. It genuinely looks like this is going all the way to a jury. Part 4. The ending nobody got to see. And then, days before that May 18th trial date, it just stops. On May 4th, 2026, Lively and Baldoni reach a private settlement. No trial, no jury verdict declaring a winner. Just an agreement, filed quietly, that ends the case before either side has to prove anything in open court in front of 12 strangers. Here's what makes this ending genuinely strange, though. When the settlement terms finally become public in mid-June, they reveal something almost nobody expected. Reportedly, Lively did not receive any direct compensation in the deal. After a year and a half, a $400 million countersuit, a $550 million total ask on her side, and endless coverage, the private agreement itself apparently didn't include a payout to her at all. Both sides, naturally, spin it as a win. Baldoni's attorney tells one interviewer that his client is ecstatic with the outcome, that the goal now is to give Baldoni peace and unmitigated time to move on with his career, away from the case entirely. Meanwhile, the day after the settlement details leak, Ryan Reynolds posts a smiling couple selfie with Lively on Instagram. No caption needed, the message unmistakable. We're fine, we're together. Don't believe whatever narrative you were about to run with. That's the thing about celebrity legal battles nobody tells you. Sometimes the last move isn't a legal argument at all. It's a photo. Part 5. It wasn't actually over. Here's the twist that most people missed, because it happened quietly, weeks after everyone assumed the story had ended. Even after settling, Lively goes back to court, not to reopen the underlying case, that's closed, and under the settlement terms she's reportedly waived her right to appeal it. Instead, her legal team files a motion seeking legal fees, costs, compensatory damages, and punitive damages from Baldoni under a specific California law, a #MeToo-era statute designed to penalize retaliatory defamation suits against people who report harassment or retaliation, with damages that can be automatically tripled. Baldoni's team calls this exactly what you'd expect them to call it, an attempt to get, in their words, an end run around the jury trial that was eliminated by settlement in this case. In other words, you agree to settle, so stop trying to relitigate the money through a side door. So even now, the ending everyone got in May isn't really the ending. There's a live, unresolved fight over money happening in a New York courtroom right now, months after the headlines moved on and most people assumed this was finished. Closer, so who actually won? Baldoni got his own $400 million countersuit thrown out entirely. Lively watched 10 of her original 13 claims collapse before trial ever started. Neither side got the public verdict either one clearly wanted going in. Neither side got to stand in front of a jury and hear the words we find in favor of. Instead, they got a settlement that, by most accounts, paid Lively nothing directly, and a fight over fees and punitive damages that's still going, quietly, right now. Maybe that's the most honest ending a story like this could actually get. Not a clean moral, not a clear winner. Just two people, an enormous amount of money spent on lawyers, a movie about escaping a toxic relationship somehow becoming the backdrop for one of the ugliest real ones, and a case that was declared over in a press release, while the actual fight, quietly, kept going anyway. So here's the real question worth sitting with. When a case this big ends in a settlement instead of a verdict, who does that actually protect? The person who says they were wronged? The person accused of wrongdoing? Or just whichever side's legal team is better at making the story disappear before a jury ever gets the chance to decide? Because right now, nobody outside those two legal teams actually knows the full answer. And based on how this case has gone so far, there's a good chance we won't find out anytime soon, either.